Welcome to Planning Phase Syndicate. This is Star Wars Unlimited, and we've got a deck tech for you. Yes, folks, the fabled Admiral Trench deck tech hard control deck Alex built that we've been piloting for, I don't know, at least 3 or 4 weeks right now. We are going to do a deck tech on it, and we're going to kind of talk a little bit about how the deck works, see strengths and weaknesses, why you should just play this and stop playing any other hard control deck, and why everybody will immediately hate you if you play this deck. Joining me tonight is Alex, the Bench Warrior. How are you tonight, sir?
I'm doing okay. It's nice to finally go over this silly deck.
And we found that the part of the reason we want to do a deck tech on it, we do these deck techs on other things too, right? Not just like good decks. Like we do them on whatever decks we like. But this deck just happened to feel like it has a little bit more legs than we originally thought.
At least
to actually have. So like, yeah, at least 8 of them. So like we thought it would be, we've talked about this on the show and people have played against us locally, but people don't know online, especially who it is. And yes, we haven't taken down a PQ yet, but if you're watching this, sir, and you challenged me online and you still want to, raise a bet on it, I'm happy to bet you. And I'm going to 2 PQs this year. So, or this season. So, but Alex, tell us like real quickly what drove you to build a deck that everybody wants to hate you for.
Actually, it was my buddy who got out of SWU roughly around set 2, and we were talking about some silly things that occur in the game. I was telling him, we played X-Wing all the time, so I'm just like, yeah, this has pilots and all this stuff. And he's just like, yeah, is there ever a deck that just doesn't run a lot of units? And I'm just like, sort of, yes, but probably not in the way you're thinking. And then I thought about it, I was like, wow, what if I just make a really, really hard control deck that barely has any units? What leader would I even take? And then I'm just like, well, Trench is cool because I can cycle cards out of my deck. Also, he can deploy more than once in the game, so you can always have him come out and deal 4 damage or whatever, as long as you pay 3 resources. And then you're drawing a card off of that, kind of. I mean, you discard 3 to draw 1, but, it's an extra card. Always nice to have, especially in hard control. So that's what it kind of morphed into. But also, like, both yellow and blue are really, really strong in control, especially in villainy. So kind of naturally fit together like that, especially with Colossus, right? Giving us extra health, and Trench sort of mitigating a little bit the disadvantage of having only 5 cards.
So let's talk a little bit about the overall deck strategy, right? So the idea, like you said, is kind of the Trench does this thing where he could discard a card, he can rummage through his deck, which is what they call it on Karabas. So like I'm just calling it rummage, even though that's not what it says on this card. I'm just calling it rummage now. So like I'll just tell people I'm rummaging, and they'll be like, what does that mean? And I'll be like, no, it means I'm going to discard a card and pull a card from my deck. So I'm just using a new word on purpose. But essentially the idea behind this is this is a very hard controlled deck. There's very few units that are played, and the idea is you want to be able to kill everything on their board and wait them out, and then be able to win at the very end, either through mill. You can win through an Avenger and Trench. Like I will tell you, like when they have 2 cards in hand and you got an Avenger, just play your Avenger and then throw your Trench down, and you can typically just kind of win. I don't know where you sit like with resourcing, but typically I like to go to 12 resources. That way I can play
12 is the magic number in this deck.
Yeah, because you can hit a bounty, a bounty hunter crew, and then play a vigilance all in the same turn. And then Trench has the ability with the digging, right? So that's the other piece, is you can rummage yourself with discarding a card, and you can flip and do it. The best part is everybody asks, do you really need 3 restocks? And the answer is yes. I would prefer 5, but I'll take 3. The answer is yes. You have to have restock, and I hope that card, they reprint that card so it never goes out of stock, out of the game, because like that card is just like so good in this deck. Like you almost always have an extra resource for the most part, and you can almost always be able to play your restock, and then your opponent's probably claiming early anyway because they're angry with you, and they don't want you to kill. They don't want you to wipe their board with super laser blast, so you can almost always get a restock off. So
yeah, the for people who don't realize this, the restock hits the discard pile first, so you can with your 4 cards that you're choosing off restock, choose restock as one of them, so you can infinitely cycle it, so you just don't run out of cards in your deck.
Yeah.
Which is kind of the basis for this, because it's the hardest control deck that I have seen. And all it does, well, not all it does, but it stalls. That's the main thing, is just a giant stall deck. So you kind of need to make sure you outlast your opponent, so you're never going to get milled if you have 3 restocks and ways of reoccurring that.
Yes, and I will tell you, it 100% works against Bosk. I love playing against Bosk Blues. They do not like it. The only one I ever struggled with is the guy that had 2 in his sideboard for whatever reason and decided to sideboard in and had 3. And if you don't hit your restocks, or he mills your restocks and mills your reoccurring cards, sometimes it's a little bit harder. But
that's what the Bazines are for, is to rip out their restocks like I've done.
Yeah, exactly. So, well, let's get into the deck. What, Alex? Why don't you read over the deck and tell us what is in it?
Yeah. So this is a 55 card deck. So it's already a little bit silly, but also Trench comes out, you dump 3 cards and draw 1, so you do end up going through it pretty fast, especially if you're actually using his ability. So this one, it has 2 Affined Editions, triple restock, the huge part of the deck, double top target, triple Bazine, triple Pershing, triple Entrenched, 1 tech, which is so good. Double I Am Your Father, triple Merciless Contest, triple Power of the Dark Side, triple Frozen in Carbonite, triple Perilous Position, double Fell, double Search Your Feelings, double Takedown, triple Vigilance, triple No Glory, double Bounty Hunter Crew, double Evacuate, double Rivals Fall, triple Super Laser Blast, and triple Avenger. In the side, you have triple EMP, triple Outmaneuver, double Waylay, and double Annihilator.
Yep. And so when we talk a little bit about this deck, so the way we're going to do this a little bit different than our normal deck techs. I'm not going to go turn 1, turn 2, turn 3, because the way this deck plays is insanely fluid.
It's reactionary.
Yeah. The whole thing is, and to go turn by turn and explain to you what's best to play is very silly, because you don't know, like, every deck your opponent is going to play against you is going to have a different gameplay strategy. So the big thing about understanding this deck is that you have to know that how that their deck wants to work, so you know how to counter it. So for example, don't do what Tanner does and flip a Bazine to rip a Darksaber out of their hands, so that so they can then top deck and play a Wrecker and overrun your base by 4 damage, because you were stupid and didn't think about that before you played it. So but the deck takes a little bit more thought process, I think.
This is the most difficult deck I've ever played.
Yeah.
And I play like weird combo, crazy, difficult decks to pilot, and this one this has me thinking really hard. And if you mess up, it gets really rough.
Yep. And the reason to do the deck tech, more or less, is just because we've explained why we like the deck and why we think this is good for Unlimited. Like, this is a very good deck to show in Unlimited, because if this can do well, it shows that we don't have like this kind of broken meta. Like, this deck only somewhat cared about Django. Just so you know, like, Django was not as
all the Djangos that I played.
Yeah, it didn't care. Like, oh no, you want to exhaust the 0 units we have. Like, in Django, I just never flipped Trench, and right. I don't want to say we should have kept Django in the meta, because not everybody wants to run this style of deck. But I will say that Django, yeah, he didn't, like, if he got a lot of his TDRs off and had a bunch of units out that you couldn't control, sure. But for the most part, you're able to 1-for-1 his units, and it just was like, oh, I'm sorry. Yep. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, usually like the TDR into Devastator was, okay, well, I took 4 damage to my base, and then I just played, Fell the Dragon usually, or even if I didn't have that, I'd just be like, well, I have Frozen Carbonite, Perilous Position, or Entrenched, or anything, so you're not swinging in for 9. And I'll just deal with you later.
Exactly.
Or Rivals Fall, or even Evacuate, even though those aren't the best. No Glory, all that stuff just managed to take out, a TDR Devastator at 6 resources.
Yeah. So let's talk real quick before we get into a little bit of how the deck operates. Let's actually talk a little bit about its strengths and weaknesses. And I wanted to do that. Usually I do that at the end of the videos, but I kind of want to do that first so that you understand going into, where this deck will struggle a little bit and where this deck excels so that you understand why we're playing the cards that we're playing.
Okay, yeah. So, you know, a lot of the weakness comes to your ability to play the deck, but it does kind of, it's a little bit of an uphill battle into certain stuff. We found like heavy indirect damage decks, which was usually like a yellow Boba Fett deck. Kind of causes some problems because you don't have units to absorb the damage on. So when you're playing it, you actually want to play your Bazines. Usually you try to resource those or like bring out Trench more frequently to kind of absorb the indirect damage. But that's also what the whole sideboard is kind of built around. That's the electromagnetic pulses to exhaust the ships that deal indirect damage, like your Villainy, Fett's Fire Spray, the bombers, stuff like that. And also the outmaneuver. That way, a majority of the indirect damage decks are like space decks. So you can just exhaust, 3-4 units or whatever at the time. The other one that I would say struggles pretty bad is this, like, if your opponent has like really heavy like hand hate, hand destruction kind of stuff. So it's like, triple spark, triple jam communications, triple like Bodhi, triple Ahsoka, stuff like that. Even to rip cards out of your hand, which doesn't feel good. You do have a minor benefit of pretty much every card in your deck will kill something at some point. So they're not ripping out like the one card you need to be able to stop them. They're more of like taking away all your options. And hopefully they just play a bunch of hand hate so they don't actually have units to attack you, but that's a little bit unrealistic. There's not really much this deck can really do about that. It just is the nature of sometimes they run really heavy hand control and they draw it and you don't have Pershings or Trench or anything. So
yeah. So like your Yellow Han and your Quinlan's, those are the two. It's really Quinlan Tarkentown right now. Those are the two real hand hate decks. Because if Quinlan knows what they're doing, they'll use a force throw turn one because you don't have any of your units. So if they know you're not running units, that's how that would work. If they don't know you're running units, they're 100% not using that until like turn 4 or 5, and then you don't care as much. You just are like, whatever, like who cares? The other thing that we found a little bit in testing is heavier swarm decks that can put out 3 units consistently a turn are a little bit harder.
3
to
gets
deal with.
pretty hard to deal with.
yeah. 2 is not too bad. Usually once you hit 5 resources, 2 of them are fine a turn. It's once you hit that 3 every single turn starting round 2 or round 3, like then it's like so like if Sabine is running very low to the ground, or like that Vader yellow deck, if it's running like can put out 3 or 4 units towards the end, you have to be very careful because it can swing in for a lot of damage beforehand. But the best part about that is a lot of times their overwhelming barrages mean nothing. They use it and you can just tap down the unit that they did, and then then it's not as much damage. And as long as you hit your heal good enough, you're fine. Swarm decks,
the 5 pseudo board wipes, right, between the 3 super laser blast or the double evacuate.
Yep. And I think the big thing with those it's the ones like the Vader and like Vader, Akbar, and Rex are the 3 that can kind of create units from nothing. It's not exactly nothing, right? But like that's how they can do it. And those are the ones, like even a Sabine deck is not consistently putting out 3 units a turn. It's just not going to happen. But
again, that's also kind of where the sideboard comes into play with the outmaneuvers. And the waylays help a little bit, but as a lot of it's just like, well, you have 8 space units and now they're all exhausted and your whole turn's done. And I'd save myself 10 damage right there for 3 resources, and then I'm sure I'm doing something else.
Exactly. So let's talk a little bit about the strengths. We're going to get into that more when we get into the actual cards. But, and again, I hate saying strengths because people are going to judge this. They're going to judge this video, and hopefully we don't get too many down ratings because people hate hard control. But the strength is this is a hard control deck that has the ability to control the board better than Iden even did. And that's because you can get there's enough heal cards in the game now. Whereas Iden before was a heal bot. Now we have actual real heal cards that like can do what we need them to do. So
looping like the top targets with the fine edition and then the restocks is huge, right?
Yeah.
In addition to like the vigilances.
Yep, and like even if you don't need your vigilance, or you don't need, or let's say you haven't played a vigilance yet, and you could find edition, bring back that top target, and then you can bounty hunter crew and bring back that, fine edition if that's like the best play to do. I have 100.
You can loop whatever you need.
Yeah, I have 100% played a bounty hunter's quarry, killed something with it when it ambushes, pulled my fine edition out of my discard, and then now I have the ability with like 3 to 6 resources depending on where I'm at to play something out of my graveyard again. And like it's just it can be very dirty.
There's been so many times where I'm just like, oh, I killed something this turn, I'm going to play a fine edition and Frozen and Carbonite, the really big like Wrecker or Poe or something. Like Poe kind of can give you a little bit of trouble because it kills upgrades. But that's just put Frozen Carbonite on it and you're good.
Yeah. Or Entrench, you can entrench your Poe and then just never ever play.
I just don't play
your
ground.
normal
You don't
trench.
need to.
So don't play anything else on there so that Poe can't get off his BS.
But a lot of the times you want to save Entrenched for their leader units. Because outside of like Rival's Fall, you're not really doing anything. I guess if they have lower health, like a Sabine or actually even Iden, because Iden has 4 health, like the takedowns work. Although I have done things like I am your father, a leader, and they're just like, well, you're a control deck, so I don't give you the cards. And they just, their leader took 7 damage and died. And I'm like, well, I see their logic, but I'm not sure if I agree. I don't know what I would choose in that situation.
Yeah. So this deck is decent into aggro because of your heal engine. Control decks we have less of a problem with, in my opinion, than almost any other deck out there. Like just hands down, a control deck typically does not beat this deck. Like
they're not controlling anything.
Yeah.
So it's just like, well, my control endgame is I'm gonna mill you out because I can recur my deck enough that this doesn't matter too much to me right now.
Yep. And we have the hand hate as well with the Bazines, right? So it's a little bit easier. We don't even have to run Spark of Rebellions. Like we used to run that in Idens. You used to play a Spark of Rebellion, but we don't have to do that as much in this deck because of some of the other cards that we have. And then mid-range decks, they just can't output enough units. Yeah, they don't have enough.
If they're playing on curve, like then they're playing usually 1 unit, and you will be able to take care of that.
Yeah. And then you're essentially just comes down to who has the better end game and whether you want to mill them or just play your Avenger and your Trench. Those are kind of the two. You could, by the way, when you hit 12 resources, you can play an Avenger and flip your Trench in the same turn, just so you know. And then now you're doing 12 damage a turn with the 2 units if they don't kill them. So
I'm not sure if you've hit this before, but I have had multiple games where my opponent doesn't have a deck, but they have like 3 or 4 cards in hand. And that's when I just start smuggling out my Bazines because I rip a card. They can't replace it, but they're still forced to draw, so they still take the 3 damage.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm forcing them to discard a card, their best card. And then I'm just like, I'm playing 3 Bazines this turn because I can. I can smuggle them out for 4. I'm at 12.
Yep. So let's talk. So what we did is we kind of broke the cards up into sects. So we have what's called destroy units, right? So that's really the first kind of type of cards that we want to talk about. And again, if you're from it's funny because I feel like glossing over some of these because I'm familiar with all these, but a lot of people are not familiar with these control cards, right? So you have Vigilance, Super Laser Blast, Power of the Dark Side, No Glory, I Am Your Father, Merciless Contest, Takedown, Rival's Fall, and then you have Fell the Dragon, right? So obviously some of these are just easy. They're just removal spells. That's all they are. So you have the 3 that stand out that are a little bit different are your Vigilance, your No Glory, and your I Am Your Father's, right? So let's talk a little bit about I Am Your Father. Alex, that card we've talked about cutting a little bit, but I just feel it's just too good of a card to cut.
Yeah,
because if they let you draw and you have enough resources,
game over.
You just now all of a sudden have cards you didn't have before, and if not, it's just a removal spell. So now you have 3 Merciless, 3 Power, and 2 I Am Your Father's, which are literally just straight like straight up 3 cost removal, period. No questions asked. And if they let you, I had people let me draw them. Like Sabine did let me draw at least twice with
like
that.
I understand it, right? Because like we want to kill all their units, and if they willingly kill their unit, that's making their win condition worse. So I understand why people will give you 3 cards, but sometimes just giving me 3 cards is not that can be like an entrenched or a restock if we're even early in the game where I'm just like I can still use these, or I can now have 3 cards. I can pitch one of them with trench, and then continue going further into my deck if I don't have like a search your feelings or like my win con or whatever I need right now. And like vigilance, I would love to mill more if I could with vigilance. A lot of the times it is just healing and just killing something with 3 health or less. But I mean, vigilance is a great card. I've done things like sometimes I'm just like I have top target out there, so I can kill with vigilance and then mill them, so I don't actually need to heal the 5. So I'm healing 6 with top target. There's been a bunch of games where I'm just like, I'm going to heal and kill this guy with top target and just heal 11, and then just reset like the past 3 turns.
Yeah, and so I think like vigilance is a card. Vigilance is a card that I do not resource almost ever. It is a card though that I will use his rummage if I have like a bounty hunter crew already in hand.
Yes.
And it messes with, and just so this is where the deck gets like super interesting now, because what we're going to start talking about is when should you dump these cards, because it's just an action. And normally I would tell you, and if you've listened to our podcast before, I'm very adamant about anytime a leader has to take an extra action to do something is not as good of a leader as somebody that gets an automatic action, except for in this case, this trench deck will allow you to stall your opponents out. So if they've got like 3 units on the board, and they're like, let's say they're like pinging for 1 and 1, like a Vader deck is going to ping you for the 1 and then the 1 because they're waiting. They don't want to play their victor leader because you could have a takedown in hand, which they don't know because they can't see your deck list. But I will purposely, even on 6 resources, I will purposely dump a vigilance if I have a bounty hunter crew to ambush that in, kill something of theirs, and pick my vigilance back up. Plus, I get another card out of that on top of that. So I'm actually gaining a card plus killing something. And it is so crazy because it is the mind games that you play.
It's very counterintuitive. And then, there's like, I have dumped like very useful cards. I'm like, yeah, well. And they're just like, ooh, do you have 2 copies of Super Laser Blast? And I'm like, no, I just have like a restock or like a Bounty Hunter's crew or some way of getting that back. Or like you pitch like a Perilous. And they're just like, I have Fine Edition in my hand. So if I ever need it, I can just pull it back out.
Yes. So that's the thing. The other card, like the I Am Your Father card, if you have a lot of cards in hand and you don't think that they're going to let you kill it, just resource it or pitch it. Do not keep that card. That card is a dead card in your hand if you're sitting around with like 5 to 8 cards and like you don't need that card. Like they're probably not going to let you draw, but you don't want to take that chance later in the game when you hit the 20 to 25 health on your base. You don't want to take that chance without removing it. It's a great card to just pitch at the end of your turn to see if you could pick up another card that's better. And it's not like you can't get it back if you really want it back.
Right.
I don't know. And no glory is nuts.
Oh, you need that for Chewbacca, let me tell you.
Yes. You must have no glory, and you must, if you pull that in your opening hand against any deck that runs Chewbacca, you have to keep it. I don't care if they spark you, you keep the damn thing.
Well, I mean, you can also have Entrenched and also Frozen and Carbonite because that both works against Chewbacca as well. So, if you have some of those, maybe the no glory is a decent resource. But man, no glories. There's a lot of ruthless raiders out there too. I have no gloried someone's Annihilator, so I get the one defeated and I just annihilate their ships,
mm-hmm.
which is huge. Or like K2SOs is a pretty popular target for that. No glory is just a better Vanquish.
Yeah. So then let's talk a little bit about what we call stall cards, right? So like stall cards are what we would use to try to stop their board. So you have your Frozen and Carbonites. which are the MVP of the whole deck.
Such an underrated card.
That is the best card of this whole deck. Is okay outside of restock? This is the best card of the whole deck. Is that Frozen and Carbonite? Then you have Entrenched, Perilous Position, Bazine, and Evacuate, and they kind of fit into two categories, right? Like Evacuate is your oh shit button. Like, oh, I got to do something right now because they're building too big of a board.
Oh, they're really threatening me, and I'm still 2 turns away from Super Laser Blast. So everyone back to hand.
Yep. The best part, though, I'll tell you the best part. If you play a Bazine the turn before you play an Evacuate, because you already have that in hand, you play a Bazine and rip something out of their hand, and then you can play your Evacuate next turn. That's just super amazing because you get your Bazine back without having to play a McClunky or anything else, and you just get her back and you get to play her again the next round. And then you can
I've done like Evacuates with the Bounty Hunters crew too, are huge. Like actually, kind of all your units, the one little ones you have here, are great with Evacuate. Avenger a little bit less so because it's 9 to play it. But like you essentially heal back off your Pershing, or just play a Bazine again, or the Bounty Hunters crew and all that. Or like, hey, I am uncomfortable with the amount of times or the amount of turns I've left tech out on the field, so I'm gonna pop it back in my hand and resource it now. Pull them back out when we need them again, kind of thing. But also the nice thing with Frozen and Carbonite, Perilous Position, and Entrenched, they are all upgrades, so you can get it back with a fine edition, and that is huge. I have done like kill something, play a fine edition to pull Frozen Carbonite out. They play a second copy of that unit, so they kill the unit with the Frozen and Carbonite, and then I just play another one. I just have like my hand as a Frozen and Carbonite, or I play another fine edition or something like that. It gets really silly. But yes, Entrenched again, going on a leader unit is so big to stop them from just attacking, right? Like Vader, Green Vader, when he goes up on a ship, you're just like, entrenched, because you have 3 space units and they're Avengers and they're not going to be able to kill out Vader. So it's just very, very useful. Or, Sabine. Right, because at any time she attacks, she does 1 to your base. So if you just stop her with an Entrenched, you're not on a clock anymore. And she's out, so she's not pinging each other 1-1 every turn anymore, because you just stopped her out.
Yeah. So I think that kind of covers, I mean, that's the strategy. Like I said, the Frozen and Carbonite is like, oh my gosh, like just do not, huge. Like I don't ever the only out of these cards I resource Bazines, obviously, because you can smuggle them, and I resource Perilous Positions or Evacuates if I absolutely have to. Yeah. But also, I never resource an Entrenched or a Frozen and Carbonite. No.
Also, you don't even play the Bazine turn 1. Like, no. You always just resource that, because your only turn 1 play essentially is Pershing, unless you got like a really tragic hand and you have to use Trench's ability. But Pershing is basically your only first turn play. Otherwise, you are claiming and then play Power or Merciless Contest or however else you want to get around that.
All right, the next set that we have is how to recur your cards from the grave, which we kind of already talked a little bit about this, but there's 4 cards that allow you to reoccur cards, and like not all of them are for your graveyard. Again, Search Your Feelings is not pulled from your graveyard, but your Bounty Hunters crew, your restock, and your fine edition all pull from your graveyard. And Bounty Hunters crew is essentially used to help get you an event you need back that hopefully you can play in the same turn, or something you need that can be used immediately or next turn. So Vigilance is the obvious one. Super Laser Blast, I will forewarn you, if you're playing and you've played a Super Laser Blast and a Vigilance, and then like all of a sudden next turn they started to build up a board again, just Bounty Hunter crew in and pick up your Super Laser Blast, and don't worry about healing. Just wipe their board. You will regret it if you don't. Trust me, because you will never see another one.
Yes. The Bounty Hunter crews are huge, and then your Bounty Hunters crew and like Bazines are usually my like really big restock targets, other than restock itself, or like oh, I have 3 copies of Vigilance in the discard pile. I'm going to put one back in my discard, or put one back in my deck to grab it later. So like you have to, the having 2 bounty hunters crew usually is fine enough with restock to throw them back in your deck because you could always, pull bounty hunters crews again.
Yeah,
but the search your feelings is so huge in this deck too. Like there's a lot of times like the turn before my opponent flips, like we're at 4 resources, they're playing like a Quinlan or something. I will search your feelings for an entrenched because I could just stop their leader right there. A lot of the times it's making sure I have a super laser blast if I've prevented my opponent from basically playing the game for a little bit, where I'm just like, cool, they're building up a board, it's not doing anything, I'm gonna go grab my super laser blast so I have it now. I have done search your feelings for bounty hunters crew to pull other things out of my discard pile that weren't in my deck anymore. Like if I had 3 copies in my discard pile, that search your feelings is just so good. And you shuffle your deck with it, so everything you restocked at the bottom of your deck is now shuffled in your deck. So you actually have a significantly higher chance of hitting what you restocked because it's no longer probably at the bottom of your deck.
Yep. All right, the next slide that we have talks a little bit about what do you need to do to search your deck, right? So I threw the search your feelings in again because even though it technically helps, you do the other thing, this is essentially the card that will help you as well search through your deck. So Admiral Trench himself does it. Pershing does it. I'm Your Father, obviously. And then search your feelings. And so some of those we've already covered. Pershing's kind of a new one, but I mean, everybody knows what Pershing does. I will be honest with you. I despise Pershing almost all the time. Like I resource him. If they're playing ground units, he just gets resourced. He's just, he's definitely not worth it playing on turn 1 if they could kill it. If they're playing a space deck, I will use the Dr. Pershing because it'll force them to spend resources to kill him. Or if they're playing indirect damage, I could just dump it onto him and I don't care.
Honestly, if I get like 1 card out of Pershing, that is that's what I needed. A lot of the times he'll just eat a bunch of damage. But if you have Trench out, Pershing's great because you just start putting all that damage on Trench. Because here's a secret: you don't want Trench out. Like you always wanted to die the turn that you bring him out after you do the damage. Like you can keep them around in this; they're taking damage at their base, but I find Trench much more useful if he's just on the leader side. So I can continue drawing through my deck and then just draw another one when I bring him out. Because you can't use his action to discard a card that costs 3 or more, and also deploy him on the same turn because both of them exhaust the card. and then he's unique in that because all the leaders are just like, epic action, just deploy him. He's like, no, you have to pay 3 and exhaust this card to bring him out, so you can't do both at the same time. Which, I guess makes sense because you're digging 2 into your deck, and that might be a problem. I don't know. But yeah, just drawing cards in control is very, very strong, especially when one of them is just take any card you want out of your deck, and then you don't even have to show your opponent, which is cute.
Yep, because it's funny because I had an opponent that played me that wanted to predict what I was going to pull out of it, and they would just be like, "Are you pulling this? Are you pulling this?" I'm not going to tell you. I don't have to tell you anything.
I don't have to tell you. Yeah. I don't. You don't have to like all the other ones where they're like draw and reveal it to your opponents because you have to check for the condition of the card. This one has no conditions of the card. It's just take whatever is your best card right now that you need, put it in your hand.
Yeah. So the next slide is kind of what we want to talk about, like endgame strategy, right? So like we talked a lot about all the cards that go into this. The endgame strategy is probably variable based on what you're playing. You don't actually have a true in-game strategy. You're just there to survive. That's really what you're doing. If you watch Clone Wars and you look through it, that's Trench does. Trench likes to survive things he should not be surviving.
Sure, let's almost make this thematic.
Yeah. So really, like your big end game is you're going to either mill them or you're going to kill them. You only have 2 options, and there's 2 ways to mill them. You can stall them out to the point where they run out of cards, or you can actually mill them with vigilance. So as Alex will point out, that there is like the vigilance is you have to be very careful. Like if you choose to not kill that 3 health ship, that's fine. 100% it's okay to do. But you have to understand that if you aren't guaranteed to be able to kill that ship, like if they can put a Chewbacca on it, you're going to regret that in the long run. Yeah. So you have to be very, very, very careful when you use vigilance.
Very often the milling 6 not the right option, which also feels bad because we are not progressing to to some sort of end state here. We are just completely stalling out your whole opponent. There's been multiple games where I'm just like, well, the first damage I did to your base was because you have no cards in your deck. But we played like 18 turns.
Yep.
Or just like, yeah, just your opponent's like, hold my whole hand as events and I have no units, so you just kind of win by default. A lot of it is your opponent just kind of capitulating and just agreeing that, well, this game's shot. You have the control. Let's attempt a game 2.
Yeah. Tech is also the really big important piece. Like tech, do not ever, if you pull tech into your hand, don't play them. Just resource them and bring them out when you need them. And 99% of the time, I will tell you it's at the end game is when you want him. When they are running out of units to put down, or they're only a space only deck and they don't know how to, like, they've resourced all their cards to kill things.
Yeah, like they're just like, they don't play units, so I'm going to get rid of my cards that kill units.
Yep. That's when tech can come out. And then tech is like, it's very good, especially if you play like a Frozen and Carbonite or a I don't know, Fine Edition, do something. And then you have the resources to bring him out and then be able to at least get one card out of your resource row to be able to play onto them so that they know you're serious about tech. Then they have to figure out a way to kill him, and then it throws their whole game off. They immediately now have to deal with it.
And meanwhile, you're pulling like perilous positions and top targets and everything out of your discard pile to deal. Tech makes it so the 13, 14 resources you have is now in your hand. So your hand is now like 20 cards.
Yes.
So you have all the options, which is exactly what a control deck wants to do, is have options for every scenario, and tech really enables that. Yeah. And plus, if they kill you, just restock them. It's fine. Just bring them back.
Yeah. And I'll tell you what, like, tech has gotten me a turn 1 resource Avenger more than one time. Like, yeah. If I get a good hand, but I have an Avenger in it, I do not mull that hand. I resource the Avenger and hope I get my tech. And then 90% of the time I get it because you're going through your deck too. And then, then you have the ability to pull your Avenger out once you put it on there. So,
it's great.
Yeah. It's just tech. If we had more space in the deck, tech would be a 3 of, just period. He's that good of a card in this deck. It's not even funny. And the best part is when you smuggle him out, you get to smuggle the card in there. So tech can sometimes even play it when he comes out. So like, it's like, oh, there's a Frozen and Carbonite you can't discard out of my hand, mother. Or a restock.
Right. And if you're playing against like another hard control deck, you actually just resource a restock and they can never mill it out of your deck. And then when you bring out tech, then you could pull out the restock again. Yeah. So surprise restock, I guess.
The other kind of like in condition, right? Like, well, we talked about the restock. Is the restocks can essentially, you just restock your vigilances and then just mill them and heal, mill and heal, mill and heal, mill and heal, and then eventually they're dead. You can also restock with, you can put your Avenger, your Super Laser Blast, you put anything you want back in. So it's like restock is like the big in game. And normally when you get down to the last 6 cards, the best part is when you get down to the last 6 cards, sometimes you put 2 restocks and 2 vigilances in there, and then you have the ability to restock twice in one turn because you got so many damn resources, and now you're back to like 7 or 8 cards, and like,
I do the full 3 restocks back into my deck. Plus, it's usually like Vigilance, Bazine, and Bounty Hunter's Crew. Bounty Hunter's Crew, let you get out whatever event that if you have 20 of them in your discard pile, or 30 of them, because the game's gone on super long. Yeah, and that's just super super nice. And the Bazines, you can always just start ripping cards out of their hand and milling up faster.
Yeah. And then Trench coming out, like you could put Trench on the ground as well. So he's also another, 4 damage unit. So if you're milling them and they're down to, let's say 3 or 4 cards, you could bring Trench out. You get your cards. You are able to then just start swinging in with him, and you can end the game fairly quickly. It's hilarious because usually I'm restocking an Avenger as well. So like I flip Trench, pull my Avenger back out. Sometimes it's like an Avenger, a Vigilance, and 2 restocks, and they have to make a decision. What ones do they not want? Like, what are you going to do? Like, if you leave the restock, I'm going to pick it. If you don't pick the restocks, now I've got an Avenger and a Vigilance that I could play. Right. And like, I'm not as happy because I want my restock back, but there you go. I'm just going to, at that point, I'm definitely able to kill you because you're taking 6 damage a turn. No questions asked.
Well, 4 from Trench and then 8 from the Avenger,
yes,
right? So like 12. Yep. And generally at that point, they can't do anything, and whatever little units they have left are just because eaten by the Avenger. So they're pretty SOL.
Yeah. All right. So the last piece that we want to talk about is the sideboard, right? And I put this up there. I think sideboard is extremely important. I do not like the sideboard in with this deck. I'd rather just run a 65 card deck or a 60 card deck, but it's not logical. Let's not do it.
Not get what you need at that point.
Yeah, it's hard enough as it is with the 5. So the 3, obviously we run 3 each of the electromagnetic pulse, and 3 outmaneuver, 2 waylay, and 2 annihilator at this current time. That's what we're running in the sideboard. I will say I have today I tested running 1 Pershing and 2 waylay main deck and putting 2 Pershings in the sideboard. And I honestly did not look back and pulling the Pershings out. So and that's because my area is a very aggro, so it's a little bit different, right? Like I'm not getting the control metas and mid-range metas where I need those extra card draws as much. Because it's just going to kill my unit.
It does kind of feel weird that I'm just like, I can almost... I do actually end up siding the Pershings out a lot of games for the outmaneuvers, the electromagnetic pulses.
Yeah.
Just because I'm just like, well, I don't need the card draw. I just need something to stop them. And then that's what the outmaneuver and the EMPs are for.
Yep. And that's like one of the big things. Like EMP is like super good into anything that's a space deck. So immediately if you're playing a space deck, even if you won game 1, I always side my EMPs in, actually, just because then I have them. They're just extra, like they're like an extra tap down that turn. And they work on, by the way, they work on a Falcon Chewbacca, just so you know, very well. And if you get 2 of them in one hand, you can just play the 1 cost, claim, and do it the next turn too. And they really hate that.
What's really funny is that because it also works on droids, you can hit K2SO with it, and I've done that before.
Oh, I never thought about that. Yeah, that's really good.
Any
droid.
Yep. So like, sometimes you just get people playing like IG-88 or something, or usually it's K2SO, or I say the vultures, but like also those just kill the vultures anyways. But
yeah. And then obviously that's what the outmaneuver is. It keeps their board down. It's kind of like the evacuate. It's it's an O ship button. Now we're just adding 3 more O ship buttons in.
Right. For the really heavy aggro or the really heavy is typically like the space, like the Vader decks or something, where I'm just like, they're all gone now because I can't kill those things with Trench himself.
Yeah. The best part is you can outmaneuver Bounty Hunter's crew, bring that back, evacuate everything, pick up your Bounty Hunter's crew, and you can cycle through like for the 2 evacuates that you have. Like it's really stupid things you can do. Annihilators are more, it feels like, for control. Like it's kind of where I've
mostly
used them.
For Piet decks, honestly.
Yeah.
I mean, also it really helps close the game out when you swing for 12. But again, it's a lot of it is mostly for Piet or like a little bit of other control, because you can just like drop an Annihilator and just wipe out whatever they have in the deck, which kind of also helps you mill them because you can remove like maybe 2 cards from their deck or their hand or whatever, and you can also see through their deck for any other potential threats, which is actually pretty cool. Yeah. But again, it's mostly for like the super late game ones.
Yep. And I have used it before where I played it and then I've super laser blasted it just to get the when defeated effect of being able to mill their Lukes and then turn around and mill like their Hans or something like that. And it's like, oh, sorry, or their Falcons. Like that's even bigger, is let's get rid of their Falcons. Because you now can usually get 6 of those, whatever you haven't killed already. So yeah, I should have brought those in when I played against Han, because like they just kept putting Falcon, pick it up, Falcon, pick it up.
Get to 11 resources. Like you should probably kill a couple of those. But yeah, Falcons are also kind of like a weird, unique problem, because if you don't kill it that turn, they just pop it back. They should be popping it back to their hand every time. So you actually have to hold something like a takedown, because like entrenching and frozen a Carbonite or whatever, a Falcon doesn't do anything. so it ends up being like a takedown or a no glory. I've also rivals Falcons before, just because sometimes you need to to get it out of their hand, because that's their only source of damage incoming.
Yeah. And the waylays, I don't know. Waylays are just a waylay, right? Like
They're good.
They're just there because sometimes you just need a waylay. Especially if you know that they're playing Chewbacca, they put a ship down, just waylay it, and like let's go to the next turn. Let's just keep moving. It's not the best play, but it's a decent play to stop them from being able to like put their crazy stuff.
Yeah, sometimes you just need to get a unit out immediately. Or if they like somehow manage to like Voltron a big unit up, then you're just like, whatever, that's gone now. Or they do something weird. It's just utility and versatile. This deck is wildly fun to play. It is, if you like challenging decks, this is definitely the deck for it. Because it's hard and it's very fun. It's very much like I have had it compared to Dark Souls, both playing it and playing against it. Where if my opponent actually they manage to defeat it, because that happens, they're just like, wow, I feel like such a wild sense of accomplishment because you were just stonewalling everything I was doing, and I finally managed to get through it. Which then means my opponent had a good time, and that's a little bit rare with this deck, so I feel better. Because sometimes people actually like to play the game, and this deck kind of tells them no a lot of the time.
Yeah, this deck, I will say, this deck has a few rules. The first rule is you apologize when you put it on the table.
Yep.
Literally
every single time I've done that, I'm just like, I'm sorry, but
yep, this is what it is, and like this is good for the game. And your other rule is you apologize after you win. And third rule is you do not gloat over the win, because it wasn't really a win. You just happened to
it's
be
not
able to just end their deck.
Yeah, it's not your fault that they're only running 50 cards in their deck,
Yeah. I will say I did play against a Data Vault Han who had 60 cards, and the first game I milled, and then the second game they said you're not going to be able to mill this, and added their whole sideboard in without taking anything out, and I milled it too. So
yep.
It took forever. I won't lie. That was the longest game ever I've ever played in my whole life. But that game, I did not use my vigilance to kill any of their ships. I literally used it to mill their deck and heal, and that was it.
Sometimes you got to prove a point.
Yeah. And that wasn't even like I wasn't trying to, other than like I've been told that if you are playing a hard control deck, you shouldn't mill 60 cards out of a deck. And I'm saying I disagree with you. I think that's if you're playing a really hard control deck like what this is, that is absolutely the answer to it. And you should do it sooner than later, so that you at least get 2 games in. I think that's kind of the last point about this deck, right? Is like it takes a while to play this deck. It takes a while to learn the deck. But I think one of the big things is understanding time management. If they're getting close to damage on your base and you've hit almost 30 minutes, you probably just concede and go to the next game if that's what you need to do.
You can tell at a certain point in the game where you're just like, okay, I don't have this, or okay, I have this. But it always feels weird because like, I'm telling my opponents, like, hey, we should just go to like game 2 so we can get like 3 games in here if need be. Trust me, I'm pretty sure I got this. And almost every single time they're like, no, let's continue playing it out. And then I win 10 minutes later. I'm just like, okay, well, you ate your own clock there. But also, like, I play super fast, not like trying to fast play anyone. I naturally just play kind of fast, but also with a deck with no units, you tend to just play 1 card a turn. So you end up playing fast, and if your opponent overthinks things or is trying to, they're going a little bit slow, it's just like, well, hey, I'm doing everything I can to make this go on, so please don't complain about time if we end up going to time, because that's not on me, other than bringing the deck itself, which is 100% on me.
Yeah, that is 100% on you. So the last question is: should you bring this deck to a tournament? And if you do, are you considered a masochist at that point?
It really depends on how much you feel like making your locals angry at you. It does very well, but the onus is on you. Like, you have to make sure you're doing it like you're playing it right. Because if you mess up, it is so hard to come back. If you make mistakes with this deck, it's a super like razor's edge kind of stuff. So if you enjoy like a challenge and don't mind getting people angry and like to have fun, because this deck is a blast to play, trying to figure out exactly the correct solution to dealing with the units on the board, then you can bring it. I mean, I usually tell my opponent that we are playing 2 completely separate games right now. And my game is, did I get to Super Laser Blast? Yes. And then, do I get to stall them out? Yes, then we're good. If no to either of those, it's a tough time.
Yeah. Well, all right. Well, y'all asked for it. We delivered. This is the deck for Admiral Trench Heart Control. No, we have not taken down a PQ with it yet, but we have a couple coming up that I'm attending. I'm going to a sectional or a sector qualifier. I don't know if I'm going to bring it or not. Probably not, but you never know. Like, I mean, I like crazy stuff. I brought Boss Blue. Like, I played Boss Blue in the PQ for, a while, and that was super fun. But
that's far more interactive than this.
Yeah, that one is definitely more interactive than this deck is. But what I wanted to just say is, like, so if you're sitting across from somebody, just make sure you're gracious to them and what they do. But I don't know. I've had a blast playing this deck. My son has also kind of liked the deck as well.
It's very fun to play.
We're very control people though, so it probably makes sense why we like it. But we'll post when we post the video. We'll have a link in the description so you can check the deck out. We don't hide anything. We don't care. Like, take the deck, play it, tell us how you do. If you are in the standard Discord for Star Wars Unlimited, they have a standard Discord. There's a Trench discard thread. I'm not in there all the time, but you could tag me in there and let me know how your deck went. You can also go to our Discord if you want and just tell me how you did. Planning Face Syndicate has a Discord. There's a QR code right on the screen. You can scan it and tell me how much you hate me for playing this deck, or you can tell me how well you did with it. So either which way, there's the deck for you.
Yeah, and if you have any suggestions, please let us know, because we're always open to more options. Like, there's other things. We have considered things like enticing reward and even like bounty posting to pull out top targets and the enticing rewards and shuffle your deck for the restocks and stuff like that. So, if you find something interesting, or in your experience you did really well with something, let us know.
Yeah. With that being said, thank you all. Check out our weekly podcast that we air every Sunday night. I guess you probably don't see it till Monday morning because I load it really late in the middle of the night. But yeah, check out our weekly podcast by subscribing to our YouTube channel or Podbean, whichever floats your boat. We have them. Thank you all. Have a good night, and we'll see you on the Flippity Flop.
Yeah, thanks for listening.